Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists. Listeners, welcome to a bonus episode. We're always so excited when we have friends that return back to the podcast to kind of give us fun and exciting news. And we have Caitlyn Rastetter. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you got
Rastetter.
it. Yeah.
God.
It was a tough
I
one.
swear now I just get it like in my own head. I'm like, I'm just gonna screw it up. Their last names are butchered. Well, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a minute.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know. It's like I haven't even seen you guys in so long, let alone be on the podcast. So I feel like a guest of honor, honestly.
Oh, we're happy you're back for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. And it was
how long has it
4
been?
years. 4 years, yeah.
I'll have to look, but I want to say I jumped on your podcast like really early on. So it had to be at least 4 years ago, if not 5, when I first started. So
it's back when we lined up people to interview at conferences, and we did these back-to-back ones. Yeah.
In like a side closet. That was like,
yeah, it was we're like, we're not going to murder you in this little closet. I promise. Like there's too many witnesses, but like we'll have an interview. I promise. Yeah. It was fun.
And that was pretty cool. Cause I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking with two very well-known hygienists in the industry that I was like, I made it. And to look back 4 years ago, it's like, here we are again. And I feel like I'm hopping on a call with like a good friend that's like, hey, let's just catch up.
Good.
So,
well, that's so funny because, I feel like a lot of us all came on the scene about the same time. And for you to think that we were anybody, I was like, it's Caitlyn. She has this amazing brand that she just came up with. Like, this is so cool that she's coming on our podcast.
Like, will she please come on our podcast, our little baby podcast? And know it. Yeah. So
I remember we were in like that side closet, and student RDH Claire was right after me, and she kind of started right around the same time too.
Yep. And
I didn't meet her yet. So then it's like seeing all of us kind of grow together. It's almost like we were born around the same year.
It really is.
And now we're still very close. And luckily all of us are still, soaring away and into good successes. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah. Well, so because of that, like we have grown quite a bit. Our audience is, what's 10 times the size of what it used to be? 10 deca times to whatever the size. And I think that maybe unless they went back and listened to your episode, I feel like some of them might want to hear, where were you 4 years ago? Like what was going on with your business? What's your company? A little bit of the background, and maybe like walk us through, what's been going on these last 4 years up until like this really exciting news we're going to talk about that's recently happening.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So 4 years ago, my problems were way different than they are now. So it's like back then you think, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And now those problems seem so itty bitty small. But I remember at that time, I was still hand pressing I was just designing the shirts, pressing them myself. My coworker, Courtney, would fold them. And then my other coworker, Brittany, which they both still work with me, she would buy the label, package the order, and put the label on it, and it would go out. So there was 3 people that would put all orders together. Plus I was doing the social, I was doing the email marketing. I was, like I said, designing the products, conception to design to launch. I'd look back and I don't know how I had enough time in the day to do, and involved in customer service stuff. Now, and like social was way less demanding back then. But it was a 3-man band for, I think, the first 3 to 4 years. And just now we started hiring a team, and we look back at all the things that we used to do. And we have this special moment with each other that like, how did we do that in the beginning? Just constant scramble, but we made it always work, because one thing that never changed over the years is the mission was always so strong that no matter what, it always just came down to making that decision, what's best for the mission. And we just powered through it. But now I finally, today, we finally, we have a warehouse. We have, I have a team that prints the shirts. I have a little bit of design help that helps me take my concept from design to, from idea to design. So that's a lot. It's very helpful because now I was getting to the point where I couldn't focus on the brand. I was doing so many operational things and things inside the business that I noticed I was getting away from why I started. And that was a scary time to decide I have to let go of some things, and hire people on. And that's very scary, but I had to, because the quality and the mission could be at risk. So those problems back then, it's sometimes you look back and it was easier because you had full control. And now that I have a team under me, it's just different. You have to instruct more, you have to delegate more, but you also have to make sure they're putting out credible work. So I'm doing less hands-on things myself, but it's in a different perspective and a different light, that it's just as challenging. Even though I'm spending less time, I'm spending a little more brain power. So I remember you guys asked me what my biggest lesson I learned back then. And I think it was at that time, I think something about the subscription box, but I think of that question all the time. For some reason, I remember that question you guys asked me, and I can't think of a new, like a big lesson that I've learned, because there's just so many that I wish I could have something to share for like entrepreneurial spirits. But
do you mind if I interrupt for a quick second? Because
yeah,
I do have some questions kind of like about this process and this journey, because I think that your entrepreneurial journey is different than like Michelle and our journey. We didn't have to hire out as many people as you're probably hiring out. Your team is, our team that we have built can do the things behind the scenes that doesn't really affect this part of the interview, right? They can work on sound and quality control as far as the audio goes, but the questions that Michelle's going to ask is of her own brain and mouth, right? How do you find somebody who's going to be a part of your team? Like how did that search process go, especially recently when it just seems so hard to find the right person for any job?
Oh yeah. And we're still a small business. So, we don't have the glitz and the glam that Google has, or
right.
A bigger company that has all these perks. I mean, we're the size of a private practice. So you have a lot of benefits that aren't on your side. We have offering different pay salaries than a huge company would. And they're wearing more hats. So you're up against this battle of who's going to want to work for a small business where you're working more. You're probably going to get paid a little less than if you would be at a bigger company. It's how do you market yourself? So it's a scary thing to also trust somebody else. Because luckily early on, I had the two girls that started with me. They were friends of mine that became even close to family to me, that I don't know what I would have done without them approaching me about working with me, because approaching a stranger, at least I had one thing I knew with them was trust. That now hiring a new team, you have to make sure you trust this person. You have to give them clear expectations. So now we're noticing we have to plan all of this back end process to say how this should be done, or how you should do this, where early on there was no process. We just all were figuring it out as we went, and it worked because there was nothing to compare it to, where now we have different standards, and we have standards that hiring somebody on, I can't just let them fly, especially when I don't know them. So hiring somebody, it's scary. And it's my biggest fear I've always had was, what it's like dating. What if I don't like them? I don't want to just get rid of them. You can't just say, oh, never mind, see you later. You have to take a leap of faith with people. And I've learned you definitely have to do a probationary period. I actually found a couple of my social and design team on TikTok. So that was different. I tried to go more.
Right after Michelle's heart right there.
Yeah.
I did. I looked for more traditional ways, local in the Pittsburgh area. There were some recruiting agencies that help small businesses, because as you know, I don't have an HR department. I don't have a recruiting department. All of these times where people have full-time jobs looking for talent. I'm interviewing, I'm asking the questions, and I still have a full-time job that I have to do with DHN. So we tried that, and it just wasn't what I was expecting. And it's just like back to the drawing board. And I've reached out to this girl on TikTok just to see, not even thinking that she would be the right fit for us. I kind of just liked her work and wanted to maybe confide in her as a mentor. And we kind of just clicked right off the bat. She's out of California now. She partners with our social media, and she was a big part of it. She was the rebrand. She was kind of the one behind the rebrand too. And I wasn't really gonna do that either. So you look at, I was trying to hire help for social media, and it kind of changed the full perspective of the business. But I don't know if I didn't reach out to her on TikTok, would things be a little different? And you still have to do traditional ways on Indeed. Like right now, we'll be looking for a product purchaser to help find and buy the products that we launch throughout the year, someone to manage all those products from design to shipment to inventory, which will probably go the more traditional route on Indeed. But I just don't know how that works with TikTok. Like it was a fluke thing, but I feel like that's that platform is scary, but in a weird way, is it kind of connecting people that you've never been connected to before?
Truly.
I mean, I feel like you get to know them at a different level than, because they're putting themselves out there too, right? Like you get to know them, like who they really are. Supposedly who they really are.
Yeah.
So look, if this is too like uncomfortable to answer this, you don't have to answer this, but are you still feeling fulfilled in the same way that you did when you first started this, knowing that your personal journey is maybe different than you intended?
I think that's been a big question lately. And 5 years is kind of a good check in with yourself in the business world. I would say personally, you might check in with yourself career wise, like every 3 years. But I would say the biggest thing is businesses make it or break it in that 5 year. Like it's all you hear about. That I think that is a statistic, because I think you lose the starry eyes, the butterflies and rainbows at that 5 year plan. It's your concept is validated. It's been validated for 5 years. Now it's getting into the boring stuff. The budget is bigger. The expenses are bigger. You have more payroll. You're not just trying things for the first time and your expectations are, do people like it or do they not like it? Now you know that people like it, but how can you do it more cost effectively? How can you be better next year? So it's not as, I want to say not as fun. Definitely a lot more risk, because in the beginning it was such like that validation high of, oh my God, people like what I'm doing. That now that has changed because it's been so consistent. That's not the question we're asking anymore. It's how do we keep delivering, and how do we keep on trend, and how do we keep up with what customers need, because they're changing so much, especially lately, that I notice I'm running more operations than I ever wanted to run. I mean, it just comes with the business, but I worry all the time. Like lately, because I'm hiring more team, there's still going to be a tipping point where I'm still managing these people that I have to, like, it's not going to just change overnight. So I have to make sure, am I spending enough time on the business and in the background, but also like making sure I'm the visionary. Am I moving this ship forward? And that if I'm spending so much time defining the customer service department because we're rolling out a new protocol to help our returns process, that's so boring and operational, but it's a need of the customers, and I'm spending a lot of time deciding that process that's taking me away from the mission. And
right.
It's scary, but I check in with myself as much as I can, because that's what is going to fuel DHN to keep going forward as long as we stick to that mission statement. But hopefully I can get back on track to doing the more fun and in-depth things. Is the operations is boring, I will say.
I think we'd all definitely agree with that. But I think the cool part is, and if you listen to, these self-improvement podcasts, these entrepreneurial podcasts, they all have the same story though, right? Like you're at kind of like that midpoint where supposedly, like we're not there yet, but like that's what they say is you go through the operations thing and then it comes full circle when your business is doing it on its own. Then you get to pick and choose what you want to do from then on. Like it can just run itself and you get to do the fun stuff and someone else can do the headache stuff. So you're right on the cusp of that, I'm sure. So
yeah, I'm ready for that point of view. That's for sure.
You said something a second ago about like keeping up with trends and like trying to follow that. Like, how do you do that? That's something of our partnership. I'm the worst at understanding any sort of trendy anything.
Yeah. And now that I just turned 30 a couple of days ago. So
congratulations. Oh my gosh. You're just a baby.
I know. It's like everyone's either like, oh, you're a baby or like, oh, you're old.
You're 30.
Like, how's it feel? And I'm like,
give me their names.
Ready.
I will fight them.
I'm like, I'm wiser. I'm ready for 30.
Yeah.
But the trends, I'm not I would say the bell curve of my customer anymore. I used to be like in the midst of the trends and all my friends were talking about the trends where now a lot of my friends I was just texting my friend today. She's deleting Snapchat. She's deleting Facebook. So I think as I get older, it's going to get harder and harder to find these trends and I have to hire people in that bell curve to help find those trends. So luckily I do have a Gen Z on my team that helps me be in the know because trends I think are changing so much faster and the generational gaps are getting bigger gaps between shorter periods of time. So we use Pinterest for inspiration. We look at, inspiration is all around us at the same time. What is PacSun doing? What are the big box brands doing? So we kind of look at the aesthetic that's going on and what colors are trending and what fonts are trending. But the same thing that holds true is the funny dental sayings that I have a huge data bank of things that I've said and thought of over the years. It's just, how do you put that dental message into a current trend? How do you hit that on the nail on the head? Because a lot of the dental sayings, what was funny in the 80s is still funny today. And it's funny because something has been recycled so many times, like dental hygienius has always been a funny saying that even my professors that were in school in the 80s, like they still say, oh, I have a shirt that says that. So it's funny to see that the dental sayings stay true, but there's the trends that change around them. But the big, I think what is aligning, like picking a brand that we think our consumer aligns with is like, where do they shop? Because I think the millennials that we were more so marketing to, like my generation was shopping at different places than the new hygienist is today. So finding what that personality is kind of where we start. Is you look at the lifestyle of that person and then kind of fit the trends to the lifestyle and more so tell the story, like what's that person want rather than say, oh, well, this font is cute, so we're going to do that. It's a little deeper than that.
You feel like social media has changed quite a bit in this short run that you've been doing your business?
Oh yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that.
I wish we could go back to the days where all I had to do was I'd be in clinic and I would be like, oh, that was funny. And I'd type probably 5 words and my face wasn't on it. It was a faceless social media page. Lots of people could interact with it. It was less hate was on Twitter. And it was one source where I could engage with the customer in a focused place. And focus with our audience, not even just the customer. I mean, there's so many people that just follow us for the lifestyle aspect of it. That now you go from that media type that was just words to now it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, email, videos, reels, stories, carousels, like the list goes on of all this different content that you have to make and consistently come up with new sayings and new funny things. You can't just show a product, you have to you have to be funny, you have to teach something. So you can't just put a t-shirt on the ground and take a picture anymore. Again, like, what does our consumer want out of these social platforms? Because you look at why I started DHN back 5 years ago. The Twitter is actually 10 years old. So I started the Twitter page in 2011. And I started the Twitter page because I felt like there were all these other lifestyle Twitter accounts, like nursing or doctors, that would talk about the funny struggles of those industries. And there was none for dentistry. I was like, I want one. Like, we need one of these. Like, we need to band together and talk about all the funny stuff that goes on in our day, where we could build that community. And 5 years later, DHN was born, but with that same mission to kind of continue that Twitter page into more of a lifestyle aspect. So 5 years DHN after the Twitter page started, that was still our mission, was to create a community that was a place for people to come together, not just through Twitter, but through a connection of wearing branded merch, wearing a shirt to the operatory that feels like, haha, I get this, and wearing it to the mall and saying like, I get this, but I know you don't. So it's kind of just that full life aspect of I feel like I belong on a bigger scale and on a bigger level, that now it's harder, I think, to engage with that family that we used to engage with so well over one platform. And now it's getting harder and harder to feel connected in a way that social media has brought us so much closer together. But I think it's at a pivoting point where it might even be pushing everybody away, where the pond is a lot bigger than it used to be, that it's harder and harder to find a focused community on social media. Now it's the For You page where you're seeing literally everybody, where you used to just follow what you liked and what you wanted to follow, which I think it's great, as I met my new coworker on TikTok, but I don't see as much. It's harder for me to find a dental tunnel of where I can feel connected. So how do you guys want to interact with social? Does our dental family want to have more of a closed door community, or do they want this loud and funny, and do they want the humor aspect, or do they want a safe place? So it's kind of, I don't know what our family wants anymore.
I don't know if they know what they want.
I was going to say, I don't think we want it all and also none of it at the same time.
Exactly. I mean, we're getting dinged all the time, right?
All
like
the time.
the casino, like the slot machine, right? It's like going off constantly, and you want it, you learn things from it, you're entertained by it, but at the same time, it can be very toxic and kind of icky. So you don't want it.
Yeah, like the comparison really hard. Has to be through the roof, because we did a survey in the beginning of the year on like mental health and dental hygiene school, and what's your biggest stressor, and thinking it was going to be, my professors don't explain things well, or I don't feel like they give me the right syllabus or something. What was the biggest response, and the most repetitive response, was comparing myself to others, and comparing, she's better at exploring and I still can't grasp it, and engaging their success on how their student next to them is doing compared to them. And that was crazy to see, because I know as a dental I was a dental hygiene student at one time, that is kind of like in our DNA to be that. It's funny, it never fails. The dental hygienist is always very competitive with themselves, which makes them constantly compare, not to be the most popular, but they want to be the best. And just to see them like actually say it out loud, it's like, how do you help them through that? Because it's okay that you're not as good as the next person or the person next to you. Your journey is your journey, as long as you come out feeling 100% with your skills. How you get there is on you. That I can only imagine what social media does that now, seeing all these dental influencers on there, and they're working with big brands. And if you aspire to be that, or you look at the office is doing funny TikTok videos when your office isn't doing those videos, like, does that mean that your office isn't cool enough? It's like,
Right.
Are these questions being asked, and how is this affecting the judgment and the comparison from a student level, but also at a work level? Are there questions being asked that were never a thought ever before?
Mhm.
And that's just unsettling, because there's so much it makes our livelihoods, but it's sometimes when you ask yourself too many questions, it's makes things a lot harder to enjoy in the moment, I think.
I 100% agree with you. It's really heartbreaking, because I think that is going to be the trend that's continuing to happen. But I think, though, like when we step back a little bit and we look at the people like you who have a company that has a lot of positivity, a lot of things that are going to help other people, like have that one little beacon of hope, like this is going to be better. I really do think that's what this world needs, is you guys to be successful, you guys to continue doing your own thing and being that lantern for other people to be able to see kind of in the dark. I do, if it's okay with you, I do kind of want to shift into this rebranding thing, because I've been kind of curious about this, this whole interview. Tell me, like, what is happening with this rebranding?
So, like I said, it wasn't something I planned on doing. At first, I was looking to hire social media help to help create the content, plan the content. I couldn't do it anymore. So I found this girl, and she mostly specializes in logo design, and she's like, do you want to do this too? I'm like, no, I really like, I think it's fine. I don't think there's much we can change. Like, a tooth is a tooth. It's not, you can't get that creative with it. And I was deathly afraid of people not knowing who we are if we ever change. I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll change a font or two. We are 5 years old. Things like the colors and the fonts could always get more modern. So we went around and around for a couple weeks, and she kept saying, like, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to rebrand? And I could kind of sense that she was probably cringing at like the branding that I did 5 years ago. And knowing that she does come from an expertise, I was like, let's kind of lean into this a little more. Like, what do you think about, what the presence that we have? So we had a really good, productive conversation. And she kind of opened my eyes to, not being afraid of people not remembering you, but if you professionally organize the look of your brand, it could potentially open more doors for more credible opportunities to occur. So people might view you as more put together, just like if you show up to a meeting, an interview, you want to show up with the best blazer. And yeah, I know, Andrew, you're not going to show up in like a pencil skirt, but you want to show up and you want to look presentable, and you want to look like you know what you're doing. So she talked me into it. Long story short, she talked me into it. And I was thinking, well, Dental Hygiene Month is coming up. This was back in like April. We were talking about this. And Dental Hygiene Month was coming. We were planning that. And I didn't really usually have like something we kind of celebrate. Like last year, we celebrated the 80s of dental hygiene. That was super fun. And other years, we usually pick something to educate on. So this year, I'm like, well, it's our 5-year anniversary. I don't really know what to kind of talk about. And it kind of worked out, because then I said, well, it's our 5-year anniversary. Why don't we talk about our mission, like reintroduce ourselves? Our loyal customers know who we are, but the new customer might not know who we are. And they were now in a time where we just existed, where our loyal customers and followers started with us from the beginning, that they knew we were once not there. So they know life without DHN. That I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a good kind of marketing plan to go with. Is it the right time to step into this space? So that kind of helped my decision to celebrate DHN for Dental Hygiene Month. And her first phase of the rebrand came through, And I was like, I don't like, I don't like any of this. Cause it was scary. And I just love our old gold tooth. The reason why I had the gold
Classic.
tooth was there is a story behind it. One of my first few patients that I saw a gold crown, and I was like, wow, I didn't think it would stay that shiny for that long. So it just was breathtaking compared to other amalgam fillings, that it was a staple of my dental hygiene career. Like, it's a showstopper. So to drop that, I'm like, am I dropping the whole vibe that DHN was? Like, Be the Gold Tooth was a huge campaign that we started. I put that on our scrubs to say, because I wanted a scrub that had the dental identity to say, we are a dental professional. We are not working in hospitals. Like, we are dentistry. That was a whole part of the whole brand. And now it's something different. But as I started looking at the revisions and we worked through phases of revisions, I look back at the gold tooth and it started to feel like it wasn't me anymore. So it's now I see this new branding that it's almost like I went through identity crisis of like, I don't feel like I resonate with the gold tooth either. So I told her I wanted something that was more in line with the community. So not just something that I thought was a key standard. So the gold tooth was something I just thought was a cool part of dentistry. So I told her I wanted something unique. I wanted a tooth. I wanted it to be ironic and something that was going to make people ask questions. And she came back with this drippy tooth that is today. And I'm like, okay, maybe this could work. And at first I was worried that it was going to look gross. Cause at first she had a different color. It wasn't purple. So I asked all my friends, I asked everyone in dental hygiene. I asked some of my old professors, some of my coworkers. I'm like, do you think this is gross? Is it cool? Or does it look gross? Or does it look like a confectionery, like ice cream cone? And a lot of people said it looked gross. But for some reason I weirdly loved the drippy tooth. It was ironic. I look at all the things that I wanted her to do. And she hit the nail on the head. So I wanted to be different than that two-dimensional tooth that I feel we were losing who we were because we didn't stand out amongst other. There's more dental apparel companies out there. There's more dental merch products, and we all use that two-dimensional tooth, but I don't think it should have been our logo. So now at least we have a logo that's more differential than the two-dimensional tooth, that I can still use that tooth, but now we have a face that is ours and it's only ours. And I don't know how like I said, there's only so many ways you can get creative with a tooth, that I now am obsessed with this new look. It was scary, but it was a weird time to say, okay, am I scared because it's change, or am I scared because it's the wrong decision? And I sat on it for weeks before I told her. I was like, this is it. And like I said, now I look back at the old gold tooth, and it doesn't even feel like, I'm like, I don't even know who that person was, because this just feels more like us than ever before. So I wanted to represent our community as, we go to work as the medical professional. We show up with our white lab coats, and we are prim and proper, and we follow protocol, and we have our perfect notes. But we also have this fun side that we like to go out with our friends on the weekend. We still have social lives. We still, swear like we do. We're normal people. That's where like the ironic of that drippiness kind of brings in this sassy level of, we're more than just a prim and proper tooth. We splash some randomness on it. So hopefully now, I'm afraid people are not going to know who we are. So that's where, hopefully they're on board with the new look. And I think people are. I think they're kind of embracing it with us, but I'm excited. I feel this is more our look than the other tooth was, as much as we want to talk about looks of teeth, but it's a big deal. And my designer did not get that. She's like, it's just a tooth. I'm like, you did not just say that. It's not just a tooth.
Welcome to this weird industry of ours.
Yeah.
It is not just a tooth.
It matters. Trust me.
So what is it though? I guess like, what's the call of action for our listeners? Like what can they possibly do with you or for you?
What I wanted to talk about most was kind of explaining the why behind the rebrand and to reintroduce ourselves, but not confuse anybody. Explaining, just have a transitional period is, and kind of it wasn't just a random thing I decided to do when I woke up one day, to kind of give a little bit of a story behind why we rebranded, that the followers and listeners can follow along and follow this new journey we're embarking into. We just finished our 5-year chapter. It's not that we're reinventing the wheel. We're just changing the look of it. So I think I'm excited to see what the next 5 years has to come. So all I would want is to have the listeners follow along on our journey, get in tune with, come join us on that lifestyle. We're here to laugh. We're here to have fun. We're here to do exactly what that drippy tooth shows us to do, is to just kind of be ironic, but be these medical professionals that we also like to have fun. So we're here to just enjoy dentistry together. We hope to educate you. We hope to have fun with you. And we hope that we can provide merch that helps you celebrate dentistry even outside of the operatory. So if you want to shop our stuff, you can go to dentalhygienenation.com. But a lot of the funny stuff where the magic happens is on Instagram at Dental Hygiene Nation, or at DTHY Nation. And now you can look for the drippy tooth and not the gold tooth. So I'm sad to say RIP to the gold tooth, but you can find us by looking for that purpley drippy tooth now.
Love it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Caitlyn. Thank you for coming back on again. We're so happy for your success. Wish you all the best. Let us know when you want to come back on again. You always have a spot with us.
Thank you, guys.